So good morning, students. Welcome back to chapter 6. So the second learning objective is the global major trends which have influenced the world trade and global, let's see, world trade and global marketing. So in terms of trends, what we are basically talking about is the use of the internet, right? That is one of the major trends. And no matter where you are located, you have access to internet. It may not be as fast as in other places, but companies and organizations and retailers, they have been able to use the power of the internet to look at product choices, product options, product pricing, quality, delivery options, etc. Basically, everything that people, individual consumers such as you and me, we can use while we shop online. So that has changed the entire landscape of global marketing. So no matter where you are located, you can pretty much access all the information that is available at anywhere else in the world. So you have the freedom to buy anything from anybody at any location with the click of a mouse. So that has given tremendous power both to the buyer and the sellers. The power to the buyer is that they can look up information and they can look at the different choices available to them. The power to the seller is they can know, okay, which is the biggest demand for what kinds of products, and so they can adjust their supply and they can adjust their pricing depending on that. The other trends that we are looking at more and more is the development of relationships among different countries, so that they can enhance the opportunities for trade, and so that they can make the smooth flow of goods and services among different countries. I mean, if you look at the NAFTA, for example, United States, Canada, and Mexico, they have had the NAFTA has been in place for several decades now. Of course, in the recent past, we have seen some disturbances, some friction, but I think that is it's not a big deal. The main reason why different countries have these kinds of trade bodies or trade agreements is that the exchange of goods and services and the flow of goods and services are smoother, and they do not have to negotiate the terms and conditions for every time that they want to buy or sell something, they want to export or import something. There are several examples in your textbook which involves different companies and different countries, especially the bigger companies, for example, Amazon, and how different companies have been able to leverage this fluidity of movement of goods and services among different countries to their advantage. So I think those are some of the things that you need to be aware of. But I think at the end of the day, one of the main factors which influences the flow of goods and services is your ability to relax the rules and regulations. The fewer rules you have, the easier it will be for goods and services to move around. So that is why we have the NAFTA, that is why we have the European Union, that is why we have the ASEAN, that is why we have the Mercosur. Again, depending on where you're located, depending on which region of the world you're located, you have these different kinds of trade deals. So these are the trends. The third learning objective is the environmental forces which shape the global marketing efforts. So the environmental forces, we are talking about the technological forces, economic forces, social factors, financial factors. I mean, think about in terms of financial, the exchange rate. Different countries have their own currencies and different countries have their own exchange rates compared to the most widely accepted international currency for trade, which is the US dollar. So that is very important. So you need to be aware of what are the repercussions, what are the consequences of the rise or fall of your currency in terms of the international US dollar. So every country wants to have a certain amount of reserve of the US dollar because that helps them in foreign trade. Most of the time, other countries are unwilling to accept your local currency as a form of payment. So international dollar is the most widely accepted. Of course, there are other internationally accepted currencies as well. For example, the euro or the yen, but still the US dollar is the most popular. So exchange rate, foreign exchange rate, which it's a critical factor. Sometimes some countries, they manipulate their currency exchange rates, and for example, the US has long accused China of artificially controlling the Chinese currency, which is the yuan, and that basically helps any country in terms of favorable exchange rate, right? So if for example, if your currency is has an advantage over the US dollar, then it will be cheaper for you to import products, and it will be you will get more money if you export products. And as we know, China is one of the largest exporter of goods and some services, but mostly goods. So of course, if it can make more money out of exports, that is a big advantage for them. So these are some of the financial factors. Social factors, the population distribution is changing, the number of older people, the number of younger people, the number of teenagers. Some of the products, they have an international appeal. Burger King, McDonald's, they are available in any country of the world. Pizza Hut, so pop music, digital music. So therefore, these are products which are popular throughout the world, and you have to be aware of the current trends, and that should be a big factor in helping you decide what kind of products to capitalize on. So government rules and regulations, that is another environmental factor, and the more restrictions the government has, the more difficult it will be for you as a country to conduct foreign trade. Of course, every government wants to protect their own industry and wants to protect the interests of their own people. So that is why sometimes the government will impose restrictions. For example, a trade embargo or a quota or a tariff, which are the different forms of restrictions. Some of them are monetary, some of them are non-monetary, so as to restrict imports of foreign goods and encourage export of domestic goods to other countries. So you should be aware of those. So let's move on to the next learning objective, which is describe the alternative approaches companies use to enter global markets. Well, you cannot just wake up one fine morning and decide that you are going to be a foreign exporter or importer. So you have to plan, you have to have a strategy, and you have to have the infrastructure. So that is why it makes sense to take one step at a time. So that is what this topic is talking about, that you have to look at the available options. You have to analyze your strengths and weaknesses. You have to look at your core competencies, and that is when you have to consider how to make yourself a global company. So a lot of the times, the first step is to export your product and see how well it is accepted in a foreign country. If the results are positive, then what you do is you have a foreign representative who is going to purchase, who you are going to enter into a partnership with. So either you can export your products through that foreign representative, or you can share the costs, and that is how you go to the next step and make your product available in foreign countries. The third, if that is successful, then you move on to the next higher step, which is have a fully owned subsidiary in a foreign company. So basically you have a manufacturing unit, or maybe some kind of warehouse location in a foreign country where you store your goods and sell from there. So it makes economic sense and more feasible to have a storage location in a foreign country, because it will reduce your foreign transaction costs. The final step, or the ultimate way of doing foreign trade, is to have a full-blown operation in a foreign country, which is also one of the ways of having foreign direct investment, which is FDI, in a foreign country. So that reflects your full commitment to operating on a permanent basis in that foreign country. So I would encourage you to look at what these different steps involve, and what are some of the companies, what are some of the steps that companies are taking, how some companies have gradually increased their foreign footprint, and why is McDonald's, why is IBM and IBM today, because of these steps that they have taken, in gradually to become bigger and bigger, and have their operations in different countries. So that is what I would like you to be aware of. The last learning objective is the distinction between standardization and customization when companies craft worldwide marketing programs. And this is, I think, is very important. If you look at if you go to McDonald's menu, or if you go to Pizza Hut's menu, for example, any other product which is sold in different countries, you will see that the websites have a basic similarity, but nonetheless there are major differences as well between the website of what you would see in the US and what you would see in China, for example. Not only is the language of the website different, but also many of the products that are available different. The pictures of the people are different, the flavors, the way the product is delivered, the delivery times, even the prices when you convert it into US dollars, they might be different. So that is what the concept of customization is. So the debate is standardization versus customization. So you are selling, if you are McDonald's, basically at the end of the day what you are selling is sandwiches or hamburgers. But not everybody is into hamburgers, not everybody is into sandwiches, or even if they are, not everybody likes the same kind of what goes inside the sandwiches. So that is what makes one sandwich different from the other. So that is what we are talking about, and that is what you will have to look for, and that is the concept of customization. So sometimes there is a dilemma. So on one hand, you want to project yourself as some of the basic ingredients are the same. The golden arch is the same for McDonald's, for example, no matter where you go. But at the same time, you want to cater to the local people. So that is where customization comes into play. So once again, as I mentioned before, the textbook has several examples of how customization plays a role in making your product more acceptable, because that is what you are looking at the end of the day. If your customers in the foreign country do not like your product, then all these efforts are gone down the drain. So you really have to do a lot of market research. You really have to be aware of what the local tastes and preferences are, what the local people like, and customize your product based on that. So please be aware of that. All right. Thank you very much, and I will see you in chapter 7.